Hello, welcome to ZIM Capture. I'm inventor Dan Zen. And ZIM is zimjs.com is an open source framework to make interactive media on the HTML canvas using JavaScript and Create.js. In a previous capture, we saw how we could add a bunch of objects to a container using a loop, and we made a bunch of droids inside of a droids container. In this capture, we're going to take a look at how we can apply an event to a container and operate on the thing inside the container that caused the event. We'll also take a look at how we can drag an object inside a container in an efficient manner. All right, let's take a look at the code. So here we are. We had a container and we called it droids and we added it to the stage. Then in a loop, we added a droid, or we have a droid here that is a ZIM triangle. Now a ZIM triangle, as well as a rectangle and a circle, they are themselves containers. They're a container with one shape inside them, a shape object inside. And we make use of that here in that we've made a visor that's a rectangle, and we've centered that visor in the droid. So we take this rectangle and we put it right in the triangle. Great. And now we've taken the droid and we add it to droids. So let's see what this looks like when we run it. We've got a lot of nesting things sounding. So we run it here. There they are. We have a bunch of droids. And they are comprised of a triangle, and that triangle has a rectangle sitting inside it there. They're all in droids, and droids is in the void. So we've got droids in the void. Woo. Okay, so let's add an event to that. We can say droids.on click. And we'll do it with a click event, but the same type of technique can happen with other events as well, like a mouse over, etc. And we'll call a function here. We'll capture the event object. Now the event object gives us things like e.target. And e.target is what caused the event in the container. So when we clicked, what thing inside the container actually got clicked on. And that can be handy. Let's remove it, for instance. Droids.remove child e.target. So whatever was clicked on, we're going to remove it from droids. And we better stage.update as well to see the change. And also to show the people that we can click on this container, we will say droids.cursor equals a pointer. And this is a CSS value. We'll save that and let's see what it looks like. A refresh here. There's our droids. Now as I drag around here, I can see that I'm not getting a cursor, but when I go over a droid, I get a cursor. So I think what that's telling us is the container is not this void here. The container is only where there's something like a droid. Oh yes, look at that. I can remove droids. Woohoo! Or maybe it's happier, like kind of like bubble wrap. I can't stop. I can't stop clicking droids. Popping pimples. Ooh, little droid pimples. No, shh. Missed. Oh, it's so much fun. So is that what you expected? E.target is what we're clicking on. And there it is, the last droid in the void. So E.target is what we're clicking on, and we're removing that from droids. There's also E.currentTarget. E.currentTarget. Sorry for the strange name there, but what E.currentTarget is whatever the event was placed on. So that will be droids. So we say E.currentTarget.alpha, for instance, equals about 0.5. We won't bother removing anything at the moment, and refresh, and let's see what happens. We refresh, we click on droids, and E.currentTarget, that's droids, the whole container, its alpha goes to 0. All right, a little bit more about E.target, because it can be tricky. E.target is what is clicked on, not necessarily inside of droids, but it could be in a container inside droids. or in a container inside a container inside a droid. So it's whatever was clicked on, and it goes deep into the containers. Unless their containers have what's called their mouse children turned off. So don't pay attention to what's inside of me. Treat me as only the container. Treat me as a flat container. And indeed, if we scroll down here, that's what ZIM triangle, ZIM circle, and ZIM rectangle have. They have their mouse children turned off. So let's see what happens when we turn the mouse children back on. And that looks like this. Droid dot mouse children equals true. By default, any container, by the way, the default is their mouse children's true. We had to turn them off specifically in the triangle. And the reason for that is the triangle has a triangle shape inside. And I didn't want, when we clicked, I didn't want e.target to be the triangle shape inside. I wanted it to be the whole triangle. And that's same with this rectangle, the visor, for instance. The visor is added to the triangle. And now that we've turned the mouse children off, if we clicked on the visor, e.target will be the visor. And if e.target is the visor and we go to remove it from droids, well, e.target is not directly inside droid. E.target's not a child of droids. E.target, which is the visor, is a child of the droid, of the triangle container. Okay, so in other words, e.target doesn't belong to droids, so removing child will not do anything. It can't find it, and so CreateJS sort of fails gracefully. It doesn't give you an error message, it just doesn't do anything. So we're going to save this. And when we click on a visor now, click on the visor, nothing happens. Click on the triangle shape in the triangle container, nothing happens. Because that triangle shape is not a child of droids. The triangle shape is a child of the triangle container. Well, we can fix that up a little bit by, instead of saying droids.removeChild, we can remove e.target from e.target's parent. Does that make sense? So this is us. We're removing e.target from its parent. And that will work. Let's save that. Can you imagine what's going to happen here if we click on a visor? Poof. The visor gets removed from the droid. Now what happens if we click on the triangle? Poof. The triangle shape gets removed from the droid, and the droid is the triangle container. And now the triangle container has left in it the rectangle visor. And we press that. Now this triangle container has nothing in it, but it's still there. The droids still has a droid there, an empty droid, sitting in there as a child. And so that can be a little bit dangerous. Powerful, yes, because we can remove individual parts, but dangerous because we might not realize exactly what's happening there. All right, so that's the mouse children, and that's a touch tricky, isn't it? And hopefully you got that. If not, have a listen again. It might have been a touch tricky because we didn't start from the beginning with that. We kind of, it's in a harder system or a more complex system here. But anyway, that's mouse children. Let's try something a little simpler. We will comment that out. And oh, by the way, let's just make sure that we're back in working order. We've commented out the mouse children true here, so we've gone back to the triangle's default of mouse children false. Will this still work? E.target will now be the whole triangle, or the droid. And if this is the droid, we're asking the droid's parent to remove the droid, which is just like saying droids.removeChild. All right, so let's save that and just make sure that we're back in working order. When I press, now the whole droid gets removed. So that is fine. All right, something a little bit more simple. How about this one? Ready? Droids.drag. Ooh. Let's see what happens. So we refresh here. Now I pick up a droid, and any of the droids I pick up drag. Isn't that great? Woo, woo, woo. Fantastic. Okay, now to be able to keep the droids in bounds, though, is a bit of another issue. It works quite well if you've got one thing that you're dragging and you specify the bounds. That's no problem. Imagine that we don't have any of these other droids, we've just got this one. If we specify the bounds for this, we would want the droid to stay within bounds. Here's the registration point right here. We would specify bounds that are the width divided by 2, the height divided by 2, and then over on this side we'd have to take the width of the rectangle that we would specify for dragging right here. So not specifying bounds, but specifying a dragging rectangle. The width is half the width of the triangle and half the width off of this side, so that's a full width off for the width of the dragging. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That's what it is. Let us show you in code, and hopefully that'll make more sense. So the bounds would look like this. Var bounds, this is the dragging rectangle in a sense, would be a new create.js dot rectangle. And in here, it's not 0, 0, stage width, stage height, because then it would still slightly go off the stage. So we would have to put in half of the width of what we're dragging. Now that's a good question. What are we dragging here? And there's a whole bunch of them. So if we dragged a small one like this, the bounds would be up here. If we drag a big one, the bounds are here. So different bounds, unfortunately. So if we really wanted to do this with each individual bound, we'd probably have to put an individual drag inside the loop, and therefore each one would get its own bounds. But if we don't mind just using the maximum, say, whatever the maximum of this is, we'll keep this within that. So that would be something like the droid's width divided by 2. Oh, but up here we don't have the droid's width. That would be, sorry, the maximum is 120, for instance. So put 120 divided by 2, so that's half the maximum. 120 divided by 2. Let's put this down here so you can see it better. And on the other side, we have the stage width minus the full 120. Minus the full 120. 120 is not exactly right when it comes to the height, because really it's the base of the triangle that's going to be 120. The height of the triangle will be slightly less, but no big deal. Okay, so there's the bounds, and to be able to drag the bounds, or to be able to drag within those bounds, we say rect : bounds, like so. All right, and let's save this up and refresh here. Refresh. Something strange is going on. Look, all of a sudden, this stuff's going off the side. That didn't happen before, and I've got this big space over on the left-hand side. What is going on? Well, the answer is ZIM drag, by default, will take your object that you're dragging and place it inside the bounds to start. Unfortunately, the object that it thinks we're dragging here is all of droids. And if we take a look at where droids is, we can go droids.outline. And let's take a look. We refresh here. So this registration point right here is what ZIM drag is trying to keep snap within the bounds. So you see that's the bounds we established. And look, it's putting, by the way, the red rectangle is just, we've sort of randomly positioned these things. Sometimes we haven't positioned them right up to the edge, and therefore the rectangle is being put around that. But the registration point is here, and ZIM drag is putting that within the bounds we've established. It's kind of funny, we can pick these things up, and once we pick them up, it knows, it takes this thing and puts it within those bounds, which is fine, aside from the issue of little triangles look like they're farther away. So to make a long story short, we can solve this by right in here saying start bounds : false, like so. Okay, this says, please don't try and snap me to the bounds at the beginning. So you wouldn't need this if you were dragging only a single object, but when you're dragging a container and you want bounds, then, and by the way, when you're dragging a container and the things inside are all the same size, then your bounds are going to work perfectly. It's only when the things inside the container are all different sizes, it depends on how you want to manage your bounds. But if you want to say stay within a certain 120 or something like that, then you're fine. But if you want specific to the width exact, you might have to set the drag down in the loop. Anyway, let's see if this works. So we save that and we refresh here. Now you can see that we're not snapping that, and we can pick these things up and it stays roughly within those bounds. Did you see what happened though? It positions them off to the left, but when we actually drag, it looks like they're farther away. And that's okay. I mean, in general, it's working. Okay, keeps it roughly within the stage. It probably wouldn't be noticeable. And there, no snapping. All right, let's just get rid of that. One more thing to show you. Pladoom bloom. And we'll ignore this stuff for now. Let me just show you with that, without it. And see, they all kind of fit there, and as I drag around, it seems like indeed, it's good enough. Right? The big ones go right to the edge, the small ones don't, but it's probably okay. One more thing to show you, if we didn't have these things, or even if we did, there's how would we drag the whole container? Right now, we're dragging the things inside the container. Sometimes we don't want that. We want to drag the whole container. And ZIM drag has a way to do that. It's called current target : true. So much like this current target right here, E.current target represents whatever the event was placed on. That's droids. Current target setting that to true within the drag means that we'll drag all of droids. So if we save that and refresh here, I pick this up, and now all of the droids drag, the whole container drags. Wow, that was a lot. All right, in general, what we saw in this capture is we can put an event right on the container. Then we can use E.target to access whatever was in the container that got clicked or that caused the event. If we want whatever the container or whatever the event was placed upon, then we use E.current target. We saw a little bit about what mouse children is doing and how that relates to what E.target will be. We also saw how we can drag in a nice easy way, ZIM.drag, and it will drag whatever's inside there. If we want to drag the whole thing, then we can say ZIM.drag and set the current target to true. And if we're wanting to apply a bounds, then we'll want to make sure that if we've got a container, that we set the start bounds to false. All right, well done. I'm inventor Dan Zen. We're here at ZIM Capture, zimjs.com. Have a great day.